This video is brought to you by our new show, The Daily Briefing. That's the show where we go through the 5 most important news stories each day, giving you a rundown of everything you need to know around the world in a matter of minutes. Watch on the separate TLDR Daily YouTube channel or listen by searching in your favourite podcast app. As you probably already know, Boris Johnson is struggling at the moment. His poll ratings are in the dumps, his own MPs are reluctant to publicly express their support for him, and the apparently endless Partygate scandal looks set to continue on for at least the next few weeks. Despite all of this though, Johnson looks pretty secure. Tory MPs don't look keen on a leadership election, and Johnson himself has made it clear that he doesn't plan on resigning, whatever happens. So in this video, we're going to try and answer the question, how the hell does Boris Johnson still have power? Before we get into the reasons behind Johnson's persistence, let's talk about how bad things are for him at the moment. According to the New Statesman's poll aggregator, Johnson's Conservatives are currently 6 points behind Keir Starmer's Labour Party. And, according to the same dataset, if an election were to be held today, the Conservatives would lose 111 seats, going from 365 to just 254, while Labour would win 99 new seats, going from 202 today to a plurality of 301. This isn't new either. Labour have now held the lead for about 4 months, the longest lasting Labour lead since early 2018. Perhaps more worryingly for the Conservatives though, when it comes to the who would make the best Prime Minister and who would be best for the economy questions, both metrics which often end up determining who actually ends up winning, recent polling suggests that the Conservatives no longer have a clear lead in either. In 2015, for example, Labour enjoyed a steady poll lead in the run-up to the election, but Miliband never actually beat Cameron when it came to polling on who would make a better Prime Minister, and Labour was consistently behind when it came to which party would do better at handling the economy, which is ultimately the 2 reasons they ended up losing. By contrast, in 2017, Corbyn ended up outperforming his headline polling numbers because by the time the election actually came round, Corbyn was actually ahead of May when it came to who the public thought would make the better Prime Minister. You get the point. Whether a party has the public's preferred Prime Minister and whether it can be trusted with the economy reliably predicts electoral success, or at least can swing elections more in one way or the other. Worryingly for Johnson though, the Conservatives are, for the first time in a long time, no longer ahead in either of these metrics. Starmer has been ahead as the public's preferred PM since November of last year, and currently holds a 7-point lead according to the latest polling figures from YouGov. Now, this is unsurprising considering that Johnson's own personal approval ratings are sitting at negative 36%, but they are up slightly from an all-time low of negative 51% in January. When it comes to money though, Labour and the Conservatives are now neck and neck on managing the economy, and that's for the first time in years, with them consistently struggling ever since the 2008 financial crisis. And Labour is also most trusted when it comes to providing jobs, improving living standards, housing, and reducing poverty. You see what we're getting at? Not only are Labour enjoying a steady poll lead, but the Conservatives are also behind on certain important metrics, ones where they used to thrive. And Johnson's personality, which once buoyed the party, is no longer helping, with his personal approval ratings at rock bottom. So how is he still in power? Well, as we see it, there are 3 main reasons. First, and most obviously, Johnson refuses to resign. It's hard to imagine any previous Prime Minister staying in position had they broken the law or misled Parliament in the manner that Johnson has. But Johnson just refuses to resign, and apparently it's worked for him. Secondly though, the Conservatives' polling numbers aren't all that awful when you frame them in a certain way. Johnson might be doing badly now, but the next election isn't for a couple of years, and his Conservatives are only behind Labour by 7 points or so. Both David Cameron and John Major would have killed for such a narrow gap at this point in their premiership. So he does have time to recover. Third, and most importantly though, Johnson has no obvious successor. A few months ago, Rishi Sunak was widely seen as an obvious replacement were Johnson to go. He was popular with both the electorate and the membership, with enough of a broad appeal amongst MPs to guarantee him a place in any leadership runoff. Unfortunately for Dishy Rishi though, this is no longer the case. After an unimpressive spring statement, and a series of scandals concerning his wife's non-dom status, and the fact that he held a green card during his tenure as Chancellor, Sunak's personal approval ratings have collapsed to an all-time low of -17, down from +50 at the start of the pandemic. Sunak is now even at the bottom of the Conservative Home Cabinet rankings, a poll of exclusively Conservative members, and the only Cabinet member who has a negative rating. For context, just 11 months ago, Sunak was in second place, with an impressive approval rating of +86% among Tory voters. Other potential leadership candidates have also struggled though. Sajid Javid, for example, recently admitted that he held non-dom status, and Tory MPs allegedly don't want to run the risk of Liz Truss as Prime Minister. So maybe that's it. The main reason that Johnson is still in place is that there's no obvious replacement. And until someone surfaces, Conservative MPs are going to be very wary of triggering a leadership election for fear of ending up with someone they consider even worse than Johnson. Which leads us on to the last part of this video. Will this last? Will Johnson eventually be ousted? Or is Teflon Boris politically invincible? Well, the answer to this question depends on a few things. Firstly, it depends on political circumstance. If the cost of living crisis continues to worsen and Ukraine fades into the background, we can only expect Johnson's poll ratings to fall even further. Secondly, it depends on Keir Starmer. When Starmer polls better than Johnson when it comes to approval ratings and who'd make the best Prime Minister, he's not yet a political superstar. According to the latest polling from Redfield Wilton, Starmer's own approval rating is sitting bang on 0. And he's still a tiny bit behind Johnson when it comes to the pandemic and foreign policy. But most of all, it will depend on whether a successor emerges within the Conservative Party. Currently, this doesn't look likely, but it's at least possible that the war in Ukraine might bring one of the Conservative MPs with a military background to the forefront, like Tom Tugendhat or Ben Wallace. Or perhaps the cost of living crisis might create space for a more economically left-leaning MP, like Jeremy Hunt or Tobias Ellwood. Or even with the growing anger on the right of the party about the Northern Ireland Protocol and what they see as wasteful net zero subsidies, could lead the party to support an ERG member like Steve Baker or even Priti Patel. We're not saying that any of these are likely outcomes, we're just making the point that while Johnson is safe for now, this is subject to change. If you want to be updated on this story as it plays out, and find out how things go for Boris in next week's local elections, then be sure to check out the Daily Briefing. That's our new daily show, where we explain 5 news stories every single day. We pick out the big stories, the ones you ought to know about, but we also choose some smaller ones that you might otherwise miss. So if you want to be better informed about the world around you and news from all over the globe, then you really ought to subscribe. And it's only a few minutes each day, so what do you have to lose? We post a video version every weekday over on the TLDR Daily channel, so you can subscribe over there. Or you can listen along to the podcast by searching for the TLDR Daily Briefing in your favourite podcast app. Thanks for your support, and I hope you enjoy the new show.